class. Today we're going to pick up where we left off last class when we continued our discussion on introductions. In particular, you'll recall that we ended up encountering the culminating move in an introduction, the thesis statement. Today, then, we'll slow down for a moment, briskly review and situate our discussion, and then focus on thesis statements. To begin, I want us to do a little warm-up, sort of like we've been doing in class this semester. So once again, please use our chat function and type out some of your thoughts on what a thesis statement is. Go ahead and begin. Try not to spend too much time thinking, just go with what you know. Like always, we're not concerned with so-called right or wrong ideas. We're just getting our thoughts out by practicing writing. Okay, very good. I'm seeing your ideas in chat now. Thank you for sharing. I see main idea, your argument, the point of your paper. Good stuff. Okay, so why don't we take what we know and begin reflecting it off of some of our resources. For this lesson, I thought we might start talking about thesis statements by consulting good old Google. I realize this is a familiar, comfortable first step sort of strategy for most, if not all of us, when it comes to searching for information. So why not begin there? Incidentally, and like I mentioned previously, one of the main reasons I adopt this approach in class with y'all is because sometimes Google information needs additional explaining or is otherwise not exactly applicable. In this case, however, I think we can work with what Google has to say about thesis statements. Specifically, we can see that a thesis statement is a sentence expressing the main argument or central idea of a paper. It acts like a roadmap or provides direction, outlines key points of discussion and support, is specific and focused, and is arguable. We can see some of your ideas come up in chat here, so that's good. And there are some other things to keep in mind about thesis statements. Here, I just want to briefly remind you of the document we created last class for introductions, and I highlighted the portion for us that we're talking about now. Be sure to make notes if you want to on your copy of the introductions document, or as I've typically done, these slides should be available to you now if you want to annotate them directly. So now I want us to begin practicing and applying some of our existing knowledge that we just activated by considering a few examples of what may or may not be thesis statements. At the very least, I want to encourage you to take careful notes, for you may use parts of our activity here to complete this week's homework. And I'd also like us to practice a bit of collaboration by sharing our thoughts associated with each of these examples in our chat once again. So how about this one? What do you think? Is it a thesis statement, according to, once again, what we already know and or according to references like we just looked at with Google? Does anyone have any thoughts? Okay, very good. I'm seeing some responses come into chat. Thank you. Okay, this is great. What about this one? Does this sound like a thesis statement? Anyone? Excellent. Okay, thank you. And this one, is this a thesis statement? Maybe expand a bit more on why or why not. Wonderful. Thank you again for sharing, everyone. And the consensus seems to be that no, these are not really thesis statements. Now let's take a closer look at some similar sounding possible thesis statement. Let's do more of the same. Let's work together to hammer out whether or not these are thesis statements in our chat. Now, is this first one very different to your thinking than its counterpart, different from its counterpart in the previous slide? What is the difference, if any? Okay, terrific. How about this one? It's a bit different from its counterpart, but what exactly is the difference? Anyone? Good. Great work. And what about this one? What's the difference here? Okay, nicely done. Thank you for participating again, everyone. Now, as many of you pointed out in our chat so far, one of the main differences between the previous two sets of sentences or possible thesis statements, is that the sentences in the second set were more arguable. Here are a couple of examples of what that might look like. So let me back up. So then, in addition to the main argument or central idea being arguable, we also need some support or direction from it, for it. So here it says the sun will not rise in the east nor set in the west tomorrow because a newly discovered black hole will gobble us up before then. And here's another example. I want everyone to be as happy as me when I read classic literature. Therefore, everyone should only ever read classic literature. These are just a couple of virtually innumerable ways of adding in some reasons or support to a main argument or central idea that we'd want to be a thesis statement. Oftentimes, it's effective to more narrowly tailor the argument or central idea that we want to be a thesis statement. In this example, what reasons might someone have for wanting to make such an argument? Maybe the teachers are really good. Maybe the students are terrific. Maybe a quality, affordable education is actually possible. So when we add in some specific reasons or areas of support or examples to our main argument or central idea, this is what it can look like, minus the highlighting, of course, that's just for illustration. Here we can see a word like because doing some important work. It's connecting our main argument and our central idea to the areas of support for it. And like we briefly touched on at the end of our last class, a thesis statement like this becomes very important for the role it plays in the development of the rest of the paper. Specifically, there's a pretty direct relationship, or at least there should be, between the thesis statement and the topic sentences for each body paragraph. So, very briefly, and be thinking of this for our next class, here is what some of the topic sentences could look like for a paper based off of our thesis statement. Notice the bolded and underlined portion is the essence of our main argument or central idea, and the highlighted part is just one of the reasons that we gave in the thesis statement. Here's what a topic sentence for the second body paragraph might look like, and here's the third. Okay, that'll do it for today. Once again, next class we'll be talking about topic sentences stemming from thesis statements in the body paragraphs of a paper. See you all then.